So I asked you guys on my community tab and on Twitter, when do you think was the day that Dragon Ball died? And I got a lot of different answers. I would like to know yours in the comment section below. Make sure you drop it when you go down there. Hit that like also while you're down there. But I wanted to tell you guys exactly when Dragon Ball actually did die. Because a lot of people are under the impression that it has not died, that it's still going in its same form that it always has been. And there has been no rebirth or no change whatsoever, when that is furthest from the truth, because there is a moment when it died and it has not recovered from that moment fully. It has not returned to those glory days, and it just hasn't been the exact same thing, which is good for certain shows. And I don't want to color this in a bad light. I was just curious, at what point did Dragon Ball that you knew became something else? So originally I thought that Dragon Ball Evolution was the moment. That was the moment when Dragon Ball truly died, but that could not be further from the truth. Regardless of how piss poor the movie itself actually was, right after that, Akira Toriyama was so moved by how shitty that movie was that he decided that it would be in his best interest 110% to continue Dragon Ball and tell a story from his perspective, leading us to Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. So that definitely can't be the moment. The next moment I thought was Dragon Ball GT's first episode, and this is like a bias thing for me, but I remember when I first watched that episode with the terrible Dragon Ball GT rap, I was listening to it and I was like, okay, this is definitely not Dragon Ball. I watched the first episode, it felt like a knockoff version of Dragon Ball, and of course it found its footing, but it just didn't feel like the Dragon Ball I knew. But I can't really say it's the death of Dragon Ball either, because it created an entire subset of communities that are just revolving around Dragon Ball GT's concepts, like Super Saiyan 4, the universe at large, and even the Shadow Dragons. The level of forces coming from the Dragon Balls and the toxification of those wishes, these are all things that not only had lived some way or shape or form in, say, Dragon Ball Heroes or Dragon Ball fan mangas, but they've actually propelled the story forward and created brand new opportunities for Dragon Ball that it didn't have before. So regardless of the quality of Dragon Ball GT, I can't say that that is when it died either. So I was thinking and thinking and thinking. I was thinking, what if the ending of Dragon Ball Super, what if that was the moment that Dragon Ball actually bit the dust? Because after that, Dragon Ball's been kind of dead for a long time, but that would mean that it actually died. The hype for Dragon Ball has always been high. Dragon Ball Super Broly was a great hit, and so was Dragon Ball Super Superhero, and the manga is still ongoing. Plus there's new projects coming on the horizon, a lot of new video game content that is focusing on this era. Even though Dragon Ball Super's continuation basically died or ended, it didn't change Dragon Ball significantly to the point where it's just something different. And that is when I truly thought of what was the moment that Dragon Ball actually died. Enter Goku's next journey, Dragon Ball Z Season 9, Episode 38. This is the grand finale of around 230 episodes of Dragon Ball Z, and I believe that this episode is truly when Dragon Ball Z died, and it coincides with the fact that this is the last episode of DBZ. This is the last episode of that DBZ era that we're going to be getting in this format, in the way that DBZ was. And so in a sense, this is the true death of Dragon Ball, because it, after this, is completely different, completely changed, and actually dictates the future of Dragon Ball wholeheartedly. So in this episode, we get not only the 5-year time skip, but we get the introduction of Oob, Pan, Goten as an adult, Trunks as an adult, the next World Martial Arts Tournament. At this point, Goku ends up leaving with Oob, going to try to train him, and that is the end. This is literally the ending of Dragon Ball Z, and that is the ending of an era. That is the ending of DBZ style episodes. That is the ending of the golden era of Dragon Ball, which in my opinion is DBZ. It's not Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Z is the golden era of Dragon Ball. So there you ticked already one box, that it is just the ending of the golden era of Dragon Ball. What else is there to talk about with this? Well, we don't see anything that is like DBZ ever again in Dragon Ball. The way that DBZ was made, the seriousness, the tones, and just the imaginative nature of some of these concepts really don't get showcased a lot and actually get nerfed in a lot of the subsequent Dragon Ball Super episodes. So in DBZ, at the end, we get the ending of Goku's story. The next time we get an in-canon type of story is DBZ Battle of Gods, and Battle of Gods is just completely different than Dragon Ball Z. Everything's a lot more lighthearted. It feels more like Dragon Ball. It's good on its own, but there is a lack of seriousness, especially against an opponent like Beerus, who there should be a lot of really serious situational tones with that character. Plus it introduces a whole new power system with the God Key and everything of that sort, so it just completely is different than DBZ in every single way. Another way that it is different is because it takes us back in time. It is not a continuation of that ending. It is not the next thing that comes. It is literally 5 years before. It is right after the defeat Boo. So now we are stuck basically in limbo between those 5 years, and that is the entirety of not only the DBZ movies that come out in 2010s, but also Dragon Ball Super and what we've gotten so far. The only thing that has even touched it and has gotten close but still no cigar is DBS Superhero, which is the closest that we've gotten to that end time skip. We're literally just barreling toward that time skip era, and we have not passed it. We have not gone through it, and we're still kind of stuck in this sort of rut when it comes to storytelling because of the fact that this time skip exists. It also hampers a lot of story elements and gives us a lot of, well, that didn't happen. Well, Goku and Vegeta didn't have saying God Key in that last episode. We didn't have Beerus or Whis. We didn't have all the characters that we had in Dragon Ball Super. Even Pan looks different. Goten and Trunks look different. It's just a completely different timeline at this point, and that is what I'm talking about. Literally, that episode kills the continuation of Dragon Ball Z, because without that episode and Boo being the ending, then we could have gotten a smooth transition into DBZ Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F, and the Dragon Ball Super storyline, and that would have been at least a continuation of what we've already seen. But with this episode, it kills kind of that continuation, and we're just kind of going toward that end point that, in my opinion, isn't even really that hype. Like Goku going to train with Oob is not something that I'm looking forward to. I'd rather him actually train Pan or Goten and Trunks if I really had a choice. And Oob is just kind of a random kid. We did get to see him in the Moro arc, but besides that, Goku doesn't really know him besides him being the incarnation or the reincarnation of Kid Buu. You see what I'm talking about? So now we have a completely different arc and timeline of things, and it just messes a lot of things up. The continuity is all messed up, and to me, this is what really, this last episode really kills any momentum that Dragon Ball had, and really it is prone to deletion. And I wouldn't be surprised if Toriyama and Toyotaro are working on deleting that episode or coming up with some sort of alternative timeline message that this episode is completely different on its own. It's just retcon, basically. It's retcon just like Dragon Ball GT is retconned. It is just not part of the main story. So we really end at Kid Buu. You see what I'm talking about? Something that can be easily snipped away because it is just really inconsistent with the rest of Dragon Ball Super at this point and doesn't make any sense. Then yeah, this to me is the day that Dragon Ball truly felt a painful death. But we are in a Dragon Ball rebirth, so rejoice, because we are getting new content, and I feel like once we get past that time period, we'll be literally free to pursue any story that we want into the future of Dragon Ball. We're not like beholden to just such a strict guideline for the 5-year time skip. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and do you guys think that Dragon Ball died? Let me know.
Subscribe for more content.